Hello and welcome to Mrs. Pam Reads. Today we are concluding our story, A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. This is actually not a chapter, it's titled an epilogue. We just completed chapter 39 in where Ove had some heart problems and was in the hospital and came home and kind of has accepted Parvana and Patrick as family. And Parvana and the girls, I think it was, helped Ove pack up Sonia's things. He's decided that it's time to move forward, not forget, but get back to living. Yes. And Parvana had a baby, and it's a boy. All right, so let's see how this story ends. A Man Called Ove. Oh boy, that was a loud noise. I'm sorry. A Man Called Ove and an Epilogue. Life. Oh, that's funny. Let's go back here real quick because it started on chapter 39. I think it said death. Let's look real quick. Death is a strange thing. Okay. And in the epilogue, we have life is a curious thing. Winter turns to spring, and Parvana passes her driving test. Ove teaches Adrian how to change tires. The kid may have bought a Toyota, but that doesn't mean he's entirely beyond help. Ove explains to Sonia when he visits her one Sunday in April. Then he shows her some photographs of Parvana's little boy, 4 months old and fat as a seal pup. Patrick has tried to force one of those cell phone camera things on Ove, but he doesn't trust them. So he walks around with a stick wad of paper copies inside his wallet instead, held together by a rubber band. Shows everyone he meets, even the people who work at the florist. Spring turns to summer, and by the time autumn sets in, the annoying journalist, Lena, moves in with that Audi driving fop, Anders. Ove drives the moving van. He has no faith in those jackasses being able to back it between the houses without ruining his new mailbox. So it's just as well. Of course, Lena doesn't believe in marriage as an institution, Ove tells Sonia with a snort that seems to suggest there have been certain discussions about this along the street. But the following spring, he comes to the grave and shows her another wedding invitation. Mersad wears a black suit and is literally nervous shaking. Parvana has to give him a shot of tequila before he goes into the town hall. Jimmy is waiting inside. Ove is best man. Has bought a new suit. They have the party at Emil's cafe. The stocky man tries to hold a speech 3 times, but he's too overwhelmed with emotion to manage more than a few stuttering words. On the other hand, he names a sandwich after Jimmy, and Jimmy himself says it's the most magnificent present he's ever had. He continues living in his mother's house with Mersad. Well, that's interesting. The following year, they adopt a little girl. Jimmy brings her along to Anita and Rune's every afternoon without fail at 3 o'clock when they have coffee. Rune doesn't get better. In certain periods, he is virtually uncontactable for days at a time. But every time that little girl runs into his and Anita's house with her arms reaching out for Anita, a euphoric smile fills his entire face, without exception. Even more houses are built in the area. In a few years, it goes from a quiet backwater to a city district, which obviously doesn't make Patrick more competent when it comes to opening windows or assembling IKEA wardrobes. One morning, he turns up at Ove's door with two men, more or less the same age as himself, who apparently are also not so good at it. Both own houses a few streets down, they explain. They are restoring them, but they've run into problems with joists over partition walls. They don't know what to do, but Ove knows, of course. He mutters something that sounds a little like fools and goes over to show them. The next day, another neighbor turns up, and then another, and then another. Within a few months, Ove has been everywhere, fixing this and that in almost every house within a radius of 4 streets. Obviously, he always grumbles about people's incompetence. But when he's by himself by Sonia's grave, he does mumble on occasion. Sometimes it can be quite nice having something to get out on within a day's time. Parvana's daughters celebrate their birthdays, and before anyone can explain how it happened, the 3-year-old has become a 6-year-old, in that disrespectful way often noted in 3-year-olds. Ove goes with her to school on her first day. She teaches him to insert smileys into a text message, and he makes her promise never to tell Patrick that he got himself a cell phone. The 8-year-old, who in a similar disrespectful way has now turned 10, holds her first pajama party. Their little brother disperses his toys all over Ove's kitchen. Ove builds a splash pond for him in his outside space, but when someone calls it a splash pond, Ove snorts that, actually, it's a bloody pool, isn't it? Anders is voted in again as the chairman of the Residents Association. Parvana buys a new lawnmower for the lawn behind the houses. Summer turns to autumn, and autumns to winters. And one icy cold Sunday morning in November, almost 4 years to the day since Parvana and Patrick backed that trailer into Ove's mailbox, Parvana wakes up as if someone just placed a frozen hand on her brow. She gets up, looks out of her bedroom window, and checks the time. It's 8:15. The snow hasn't been cleared outside Ove's house. She runs across the little road in her dressing gown and slippers, calling out his name. Opens the door with the spare key he's given her, charges into the living room, stumbles up the stairs in her wet slippers, and with her heart in her mouth, fumbles her way into his bedroom. Ove looks like he's sleeping very deeply. She has never seen his face looking so peaceful. The cat lies at his side with its little head carefully resting in the palm of his hand. When it sees Parvana, it slowly stands up, as if only then fully accepted what has happened, then climbs into her lap. They sit together on the bedside, and Parvana caresses the thick locks of hair on Ove's head until the ambulance crew gets there, and, with tender and gentle words and movements, explains that they have to take the body away. Then she leans forward and whispers, "Give my love to Sonia and thank her for the loan," into his ear. Then she takes the big envelope from the bedside table, on which is written in longhand, "To Parvana," and goes back down the stairs. It's full of documents and certificates, original plans of the house, instruction booklets for the video player, the service booklet for the Saab, bank account numbers, and insurance policy documents. The telephone number of a lawyer to whom Ove has left all his affairs. A whole life assembled and entered into files. The closing of accounts. At the top is a letter for her. She sits down at the kitchen table to read it. It's not long, as if Ove knew she'll only drench it in tears before she gets to the end. Adrian gets the sob. Everything else is for you to take care of. You've got the house keys. The cat eats tuna fish twice a day and doesn't like shitting in other people's houses. Please respect that. There is a lawyer in town who has all the bank papers and so on. There is an account with $11,563 and $13, no, not dollars, kroner, and 67 ore from Sonia's dad. The old man had shares. He was mean as hell. Me and Sonia never knew what to do with it. Your kids should get $1 million each when they turn 18, and Jimmy's girl should get the same. The rest is yours. But please don't let Patrick bloody take care of it. Sonia would have liked you. Don't let the new neighbors drive in the residential area. Ove. At the bottom of the sheet, he's written in capitals, "You are not a complete idiot," with an exclamation point. And after that, a smiley, as Nassassin has taught him. There are clear instructions in the letters about the funeral, which mustn't under any circumstances be made a bloody fuss of. Ove doesn't want any ceremony. He only wants to be thrown in the ground next to Sonia, and that's all. No people, no messing about, he states firmly and clearly to Parvana. More than 300 people come to the funeral. When Patrick, Parvana, and the girls come in, there are people standing along the walls and aisles. Everyone holds lit candles with Sonia's Fund engraved on them, because that is what Parvana has decided to use most of Ove's money for, a charity fund for orphaned children. Her eyes are swollen with tears. Her throat is so dry that she has felt as if she's panting for air for several days now. The sight of the candles eases something in her breathing, and when Patrick sees all the people who have come to say their farewells to Ove, he elbows her gently in her side and grins with satisfaction. Shit, Ove would have hated this, wouldn't he? And then she laughs, because he really would have. In the evening, she shows a young, recently married couple around Ove and Sonia's house. The woman is pregnant. Her eyes glitter as she walks through the rooms, the way eyes glitter when a person imagines her child's future memories unfolding there on the floor. Her husband is obviously much less pleased with the place. He's wearing a pair of carpenter's trousers, and he mostly goes around kicking the baseboard suspiciously and looking annoyed. Parvana obviously knows it doesn't make any difference. She can see in the girl's eyes that the decision has already been made. But when the young man asks in a sullen tone about that garage space mentioned in the ad, Parvana looks up and down carefully, nods dryly, and asks what car he drives. The young man straightens up for the first time, smiles, an almost undetectable smile, and looks her right in the eye with the sort of indomitable pride that only one word can convey. Sob. And that's the end. that's the end of A Man Called Ove by Fredrik Backman. It's been an interesting story. It's certainly had its ups and downs, but it kind of is a feel good at the end. Thank you for joining me for Mrs. PM Reads. I hope you've enjoyed this story, and make sure to watch for other stories. They'll be there. Y'all have a great day. Thanks.